Hello and thanks for visiting. This is Jennifer McGuire. Today I'm really excited because I have a fun card that's easy to make, and I call it an open and slide card. When you open it up, you see this piece slide up to reveal a hidden message. I have two examples for you. The first is a little more elaborate, the second one's a little more simple, and then we'll have a bonus card at the end of the video. So basically, these open and slide cards are just window cards from the front, but have the surprise inside. Let's start with this card here, and I wanted to show you what the completed card is like so you know which direction we're headed. So from the front, there's just a window showing to a rainbow inside, but when you open it, that rainbow slides up and reveals a little message. There are so many creative ways you can use this technique, but today I'm just doing a basic rainbow on the inside that moves. For this card, I used some new products from Reverse Confetti. These are the Hope die set and stamp set. These are sold separately. The Hope die set has the shadow, then the word Hope, and then also the O that can go behind the O in Hope, and it gives a little bit of a sunshine look. The stamp set goes perfectly with the word Hope, building up lots of different sentiments, and they're such encouraging, unique messages. I will also be using the Reverse Confetti Head in the Clouds background die, and I'll show you a few creative ways to use this. This is a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 cut piece, and then it has that window there. But I want to cut this from the front of a note card and not cut along the top. So let me show you a trick for this. This is a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch top folding note card, and I'm taping the die right along the edge. Remember, this cuts all the way around at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. If I ran it through normally, it would just cut the front of the card off, right? And we would just have a frame cut off from the back of the card. But with a little partial die cutting, we can have the frame connected to the back of the card. So I'm using my Spellbinders Platinum 6 to demonstrate this, but you could use whatever machine you have. Now watch what I do with the top cutting plate. It is covering almost all of the die except that cutting edge there on the right edge. See right there? The edge of that die there is actually hanging out from the cutting plate just a little bit. So by doing this and we run it through, the pressure will cut all of that except along that one edge. And that way our frame will be on the front of the card and it'll be connected to the back of the card. It's a great trick that works with any background die. So you can see my card with that large window laying on my desk there. Well, I used the die to cut from another piece of white cardstock, just did a regular die cut. But notice I'm cutting the cloud border off. I wanted to build up some more clouds, and I thought a fun way to do that would be to use the same die but cut the frame portion off of it. So I'm kind of giving more life to this die. Now, if you have a rectangle die, you could create a rectangle window and then use cloud dies to create some clouds. But I wanted to really stretch this background die and use it creatively. Okay, so now this additional cloud border that I created, I'm going to glue so it's at the top of the window. You can see this window opening is pretty big, and I wanted to make it smaller so that less of the inside of my card was showing through it. So by building up these cloud layers, not only do I build up the fun scene with lots of clouds, but I'm also making that opening there smaller. I am guilty of putting lots of layers on my cards. I love the look of it, but you could definitely do less layers with this card design if you prefer. Here I've taken yet another of the cloud frame die cut, just as is, putting glue on it and gluing that onto the front. Again, just building more layers. That's a look that I like, but remember, you don't have to do that. Less layers would still create a great card. Next, let's create the piece that will slide up when you open the card. Now, I did a rainbow for both of my card examples today, but you could do anything that slides up. You could even create a fun scene on the inside. But I've been crazy about rainbows lately, so I thought it would work great here. So we need to create a piece that will slide up when we open the card. I'm going to start with a piece of cardstock that is bigger than we need. We'll trim it down later, and I'll add cardstock strips to it to make it a rainbow. Now I also need to have a flap at the top of this piece. That flap will attach to the inside front of our card. So it's going to attach right here. So right in that area there. So we don't want the flap to be too big that would show when the card's closed. So I would say about 1 inch would be a good size. And you'll understand this more as we go on. So on my scoreboard, I'm going to do a score line at 1 inch from the end of this piece of white cardstock. Again, this is the piece that we'll end up covering with the cardstock strips. So I'll fold that little flap there. Again, that's what's going to get glued right into the inside of our card, right there. But let's first add the cardstock strips to it. So you could decorate this however you want. This could be as wide as you want. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to do a narrow rainbow. So I went through my scraps and I found a few different colors and I trimmed them down to be 1/4 of an inch wide. And I'm going to glue those all onto this cardstock, starting at that score line. Once I've completed my rainbow, you'll see I have that little 1-inch white flap up at the top there, and we can just trim off the extra white that's on the side. So now we have our rainbow. Now this rainbow is much too long for our card, but that's okay, we'll trim it down later. Now onto that white flap, I'm putting some strong adhesive. I'm using Gina Connect. You could use double-sided tape if you prefer, but I like the wiggle room of a liquid adhesive. Now I'm putting that adhesive right there above the crease line of our card. So you can see that the edge of our flap is right above the crease line of our card. And I'm going to bring that rainbow down and make sure it's straight. So see, I want to make sure it's straight down the center of our card. And then you can also close your card and make sure it's straight from the front too. It should move just fine. You can see how it slides down and it slides back up. So the rainbow will look good from the front and the inside. Okay, so now we can trim this rainbow down once we're happy with where it's glued. So to trim it down, you want to close your card and cut anything that is hanging out when it's closed. So I have a lot of rainbow piece left over here, but that's okay. Lila was really excited. She's going to use that piece to do some die cutting later and create a card. So we do have some left over. But be sure to cut it off when your card is closed. Now there's one more cloud piece that we need, and it's the one that the rainbow will slide up from behind. You see that big cloud piece there on the bottom inside of the card? That's taller than what the die makes. So we're going to do another partial die cutting technique. Again, if you have cloud border dies, that would work great, but I'm just using this one die to create all of it. So here I'm taking the bottom of the die, and I put it on some white cardstock. Again, doing partial die cutting. Notice that that edge of the die is hanging out from the cutting plate, so it won't cut right along there. So when I feed this through, we will have the cloud border at the top, but we can make it as long as we want because we didn't cut the bottom. So let me show you. See how we got this piece here? All I have to do is cut the edges off, the sides off, and we have a tall border piece that is the width of our card. So look at your dies, maybe your frame dies, and how you can do partial die cutting to really extend the life of those dies. I really like this one. I thought there were so many ways you can use it, and it was fun to use it for this window open and slide card design. Okay, so now all I have to do is cut the little edges of that frame off, and we have a nice cloud border. And you can see that cloud border is much taller than what the die normally does. But I changed it up using that partial die cutting trick. We'll glue this cloud to the inside of the card so the rainbow slides out from behind it. So I want to have some guides there for the rainbow to slide. So I created these 2 guides. They're super fancy. They're just thin cardstock scraps. Doesn't matter what they look like because they will be hidden. I'm putting glue along the back of both of them. Then I'm putting them close to the rainbow, but not right up against it, kind of close. And the end of my guide is just above the end of the rainbow. I'm going to give you a closer look here. So see how the rainbow can slide up and down between those 2 guides. It's not a tight fit. There's a little wiggle room. We want some wiggle room. But the guides kind of guide it. In this way, we'll know where our adhesive can go. Notice also that the tip of the guide, see how it's a little bit above the bottom of the rainbow. We don't want it to get stuck, so that's why we put it a little bit higher. So those guides will help our rainbow out. Now we can put glue on the outside of those guides. So only to the left and to the right, and you can even put glue on the top of the guides. Just don't put glue between the guides because you'll glue your rainbow shut, and we don't want that. So glue to the right and left of the guides and on top of the guides, but nowhere else. Now I place this right on top, and this will be the cloud that the rainbow slides in and out of. So I'm going to place that down, and I'm making sure that I'm hiding the top of those guides with my cloud. That way I can be sure the rainbow never comes out from behind the cloud and goes crazy. It's always tucked behind it. And look at that. It just slides up and down easily. I've actually done a card like this that when you open it, it reveals a gift card that slides up. And I'll link to that video too if you want to check that out. It's just another way to use this open and slide technique. I decided to add 2 more cloud borders to the front, one at the top and one at the bottom. You don't have to do this. I just like all those layers of clouds. So I put a little border up here at the top, and I've got another for the bottom where I'll stamp my greeting that goes along with that hope die cut. But again, do as many layers as you want. This is all about what makes you happy and what works for you. So here I've got my MISTI stamping tool, and I'm stamping Is Never Lost, which will go with the hope die cut. I'm also going to trim the bottom of this cloud border off because it was a little too tall, and I'll glue this right along the bottom front of our card. I wanted to give it a little dimension so it stood up a little bit, so I actually glued a white cardstock strip underneath it. So that's what I just glued onto the bottom of our card, and then on that I'll add my cloud border. I've been using cardstock strips to add dimension instead of foam tape. I just feel like it's a better use of my resources, and I can control how thick I want it to be. Here I just added a little bit of dimension. Now for the hope, I went back and forth on how to do the hope. I did the shadow with white die cut, but then the word itself, I couldn't decide between the gold glitter and the black glossy. But what I ended up deciding on is black glossy, and then glitter for the O that goes behind it with the rays. So the glitter cardstock is from Memory Box, and the black glossy is from Erin Creative. And I glued those pieces together, and now we'll glue this to the bottom of our window here. Make sure your card is open so you don't glue the card shut, and I'm only putting adhesive towards the bottom edge of the hope die cut. I used, again, a strong liquid adhesive to make sure it stays put. Now onto the card, I also added some Trinity Stamps Bubble Blowout Gems. These are clear with a little bit of iridescent shine to it, and I thought it'd be fun to scatter these on the card. I put some on the clouds, and I also put some inside of the window. So when you open the card, there would be some inside of the card too. So now I have one last thing, and that is to stamp a sentiment that will be revealed when you open the card. I'm using the reverse confetti Lily of the Valley stamp set. There's a message on there that says sending love and prayers, but for this card I only use sending love because that's what fit on my rainbow. So I have my card opened, and right along the top of the cloud border I'm stamping sending love with black ink. When we close the card, this will slide down behind the cloud. So here's a look at the completed card. From the front, it just looks like clouds with a rainbow going up the center. But when you open it, you get that fun slide up surprise. Now think about it. You could make the front of the card very simple and then make the inside really fun. You could have a scene so that when you open it, something slides up and is revealed. Maybe a little critter peeks out from behind a hill. All very easy to do using this open and slide technique. All you need is that long strip and that flap glued to the inside front of the card. Okay, let's do our second example, and this one's actually easier than the first, and it uses a basic circle die. Now, if you have a basic circle, rectangle, or square die, you can do this technique. I used a circle die for the window on the front and for the piece where the rainbow slides out of in the inside. Here's a look at the completed card so you can know the direction we're headed. With this one, when you open it, the rainbow slides up, revealing an even bigger sentiment. Okay, for this card, I wanted to add some interest to the front, and I used this reverse confetti big flower cover die. I love this background die, and I'll actually use it for a bonus card at the end of this video too. I just really like the design of it, and it has faux stitching, is great for die cut inlay, but on this card, I'm just using it for white on white texture on the background of our card. So I cut it twice from white cardstock, and from one of the pieces, I'm die cutting a circle towards the top center. So I ran that through my die cut machine. Now I want to cut a circle in the same spot on the other one. Here's my trick. I hold them together, just line them up and hold them together. I'm not gluing them, just holding them together. Then I will take the circle die and pop it into the opening we've already cut on that top die cut. So it kind of pops in like a puzzle piece. You'll feel it kind of click in place. I will tape it there, run it through my die cut machine again. Now this will cut a circle in our other die cut, exactly where we want it, same spot as the other. Now it didn't cut all the way through because there were 2 layers. So I'll just line the die cut up with the circle that it already started to cut, run it through one more time, and now it's cut completely. And they both are the same die cut now with that circle at the top. Okay, now we have one more thing. We need to make the circle on the top center of a white note card too. So this is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, top folding. I'm holding one of those die cuts in place. I didn't glue it, just hold it. Pop the circle into it, ran that through our die cut machine. And you can see the circle cut through the top of our note card too. So now we have the note card and the 2 die cuts for the front with the circle in the right place. But we need one more piece, and we'll save it for later. But the one more piece is white cardstock that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, just a piece of cardstock. I'm lining it up with one of those die cuts and do the same thing again. I take my circle die cut, pop it in place, and run it through the die cut machine. So basically, I'm creating a bunch of pieces, different pieces, that we'll put together in the end where they all have a circle that lines up. So the piece we just cut will be the piece that goes inside of the card for the slide up feature. So what I'm going to do is just cut a little bit off the top so that it doesn't get in the way of the fold of the card. And we're going to save that piece for later. We'll need that when we do our rainbow. But right now, let's do the front of the card alone. First, I'm gluing our 2 die cut backgrounds together, and you can see the circle right there at the top. Then I'll put glue on the back of that and add it to the front of our card. Now, you didn't have to do this step, and you didn't have to do 2 layers if you didn't want to, but I really wanted that pattern to stand out on the front. I just thought it looked cool. Now it's time to create that rainbow. Remember, I start with white cardstock with a little flap on the end. This time, I didn't really measure it out. I just decided to do a flap that is 3/4 of an inch, so I'm scoring there at 3/4 of an inch. I found that for this open and slide technique, you could do your score line at 3/4 of an inch or an inch. Those seem to work really well. Really doesn't matter as long as that flap doesn't show through the window on your card. Okay, so right up against the edge of the flap, I'm again forming a rainbow from cardstock scraps that are about 1/4 of an inch wide. So this piece is just like the one we did earlier, and then I'll cut the extra white off the side. So now we can glue this to the inside of our card. I'm putting glue again on that flap. Liquid adhesive is the best if it's super strong, so you can wiggle it around and get it just right. So I'm gluing that so the bottom of the flap is just above the crease of the note card, making sure it's straight when I have the card closed and when it's opened, and you can see the edge of that flap is right up against the crease of the note card. And you don't see the flap when the card's closed either. While I've closed the card, I cut off that excess rainbow, and I'll save that for another project. Once again, I'm doing the little guides as we did before, just scraps of cardstock, and I put it close to the edge of the rainbow, but not right up against it. We want a little wiggle room. And I made sure the top of our guides is a little bit higher than the bottom of the rainbow. That just keeps the rainbow from popping out. Now remember earlier we die cut a circle from a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch piece of white cardstock. We trimmed a little bit off the top. Well, we're using that now. I flipped it over, and on the back I'm putting adhesive down the sides and along the top, up above the circle, but not below the circle, because we want our rainbow to be able to move. Now I'm also putting some liquid adhesive on the top of our guides and to the left and the right. And now I'll slide the rainbow through the hole and then press this down. So again, there's glue behind this entire white piece except under that rainbow. So now this can slide open and close. Look at that. Such an easy way to do this. You could use a square die, rectangle, oval. You could probably even use a heart for it. Great way to get more out of your basic die shapes. To finish off this card, I used the reverse confetti U die and stamp set. This is like the Hope, but has messages for you. And I thought it would be fun to go along with the rainbow. So I die cut the shadow from white cardstock and the U letters from the gold glitter. Then I have this older reverse confetti So Many Sentiments stamp set. It's one of my favorites. I white heat emboss one of those greetings onto black cardstock. I then have glued 2 additional black cardstock strips behind it to give it dimension. And that'll get glued on top of our die cut U. I encourage you to look at this sentiment stamp set. It's got some really unique ones, and the message I'm using here I've used before. It's definitely a favorite of mine. So I'm gluing that right across the top of this, making sure that it's straight by using the guide on my work surface. Now we want to glue this over the window. So I'm only putting adhesive on the ends of the word so that I don't glue my card closed. This is why you really want a super strong liquid adhesive. Highly recommend that because only that little bit of glue will hold this in place with no problem. And because it's liquid, I can wiggle it till I get it straight. Okay, next we want to stamp a sentiment that will be revealed as the rainbow slides up. But I want to make sure you don't see it because it's a bigger sentiment when the card is closed. So what I'm going to do is close my card and use a pencil to mark the bottom of the window. Now when I open it, I just want to make sure my stamping is below that pencil line. So I've got my card completely opened and I can pick any sentiment that fits on that rainbow below the pencil line. I used the older reverse confetti, the Most Beauty stamp set. A lot of sweet sentiments in here. And I found one about friends. I'm centering that up and stamping it with black ink. I like to stamp my sentiments very lightly first, make sure it looks okay, and then stamp it again lightly. That way I don't get any smushed areas, and it really gives a nice result. Okay, so now I can erase the pencil line, and we have our completed card. So really this is a very simple card design. I made it a little more complicated by adding those die cut layers on the front, but isn't it cool? I love that white on white texture. So you could really make a very simple card by doing a die cut window on the front, then using that same die cut to make the area on the inside for the rainbow to slide out of. And when you open it, you see that fun sentiment kind of slide up. Remember, you could do a fun scene on the inside, but I like keeping it simple so there's room to write your sentiment or your personal message also. Okay, I have a quick bonus card just to show you. I just love that background die and I wanted to do a die cut inlay with it. So this is not an open and slide card, it's just a regular card, but I wanted to share it with you anyways. In addition to the background die, I also used the reverse confetti Big Love die set. This reminds me of the hope and the U, but it's a little bit smaller and the O is a heart. I die cut the background die from white cardstock and then also from these colored cardstocks. And I have these leftover pieces because I only use the center pieces. I didn't use the background, so I can save these backgrounds for another card. But here's the card that I made. I glued the white background die cut onto a white note card. Then I took all the colorful die cut pieces and glued them in place with a die cut inlay. So you just pop them into the openings. Since these pieces are big and there's not a whole lot, it didn't take a lot of time to do this die cut inlay and the results are really pretty. I like that the pattern even has faux stitching on it. I then added some little gemstones to it just to enhance the pattern and then did the love die cut on the bottom. The letters LVE are black glossy and then I did the pink glitter paper for the heart. The sending is from that sending love and prayers sentiment that I used on my first card. Okay, so there you have a bonus card and also the two cards with the open and slide technique. Again, I did a video where you did an open and slide that revealed a gift card. I'll link it here at the end. But if you're interested in the supplies I used here, they are linked below in my YouTube description. You can find them there. Also at the end, you can find my blog up on the top right and the two other videos that I recommend watching. I thank you for spending this time with me today. Have a wonderful day and we'll see you soon.